You know, guys, I thought about starting this video like, let's go! Finally! Finally! But I didn't think that would be very appropriate for today's episode. So instead, let me just say, I love Mushoku Tensei so much. What an absolutely adorable rom-com-y ass episode we had today that leads to the moment we've all been waiting for. It really is such an adorable episode. So honestly, let's just get straight into it and let's experience it together as I talk about Mushoku Tensei Season 2, Episode 11 today. So as our episode begins today, we see, after the events of last week's episode, Rudeus is conflicted. As we hear, my partner's long-awaited reawakening got me so worked up I couldn't sleep. Fitz was all I could think about anymore. But my little buddy sure didn't seem to care. And it's here all of a sudden we see he's confronted by Luke, who tells him immediately, we need to talk about Fitz. As Rudy tells him, I know nothing, I plead the fifth, I'm not guilty. As Luke's like, oh, nothing at all, huh? And it's here realizing this is getting nowhere. Rudy tells him, look, I may be repeating myself, but I have no intention of opposing any of you. I don't know Fitz's identity or anything else. As Luke says, so you'll feign ignorance for us, huh? Why? As Rudy tells him, I've cut my ties with both the Boroses and the Nodos. And most importantly, I'm afraid to challenge you. So let's leave it at that, shall we? As he actually runs from Luke here, funny enough. And as he's running, he thinks, I decided not to make trouble for Fitz. But this isn't easy on me either. And it's here we transition to the girl in question, as we see that Ariel wants to tell Sylphie something here. As she tells Sylphie, Rudeus approached me while I was out shopping the other day. He was suspicious of Fitz's behavior. Rudeus tackled Fitz in the library, and Fitz shouted that he was a man. Or so a little birdie's told me. The hell you been doing, Sylphie? He must be certain now if he's touched you. But Rudeus claims that he won't spread Fitz's secret. No doubt he means to do right by you. So now, what will you do, Sylphie? I see nothing wrong with winning Rudeus to our cause slowly. But after 6 months without any progress at all, even I feel the need to speak up. As she just tells Sylphie to her face what we're all thinking. I've grown tired of watching you dither. So kindly work up the courage to reveal yourself to him, Sylphie. I kind of love the fact that Ariel's so blunt about it here, literally saying, alright, I've watched this will they won't they shit, Sylphie, for like 6 months now. Go get this man already. I kind of love that she just flat out says that to her. As she takes Sylphie's hand and says, isn't there something that you want to do? And as Sylphie shakes her head no, Ariel tells her, look, you've saved me many times. You've been saving me since we first met. But you're my friend, not my servant. So if you found what you want to do, put that first and leave me. As she asks Sylphie, what do you want to do right now? And after thinking about it for a second, Sylphie tells her confidently, I want to be with Rudy. Then adds, but if Rudy doesn't remember me, I don't think I'm going to recover from that. That would be critical damage. As Ariel says, then let's think that over right now, girl. So the rest of our episode from here on out is now Project Win Rudy's Heart. It's not going to be that hard to do. As we hear, simply introducing yourself as the Sylphiette who grew up with him in Benua strikes me as your best course of action. As Luke says, well, since he hasn't remembered her yet, he must have completely forgotten about her. As Ariel asks, so do any of your memories of your time together stand out? As Sylphie says, well, I told you about how I was bullied before, right? I met Rudy when he stepped in to save me. That's my strongest memory of him. As she says, can you think of anything else? As Sylphie says, well, I guess there's one more. Rudy thought I was a boy at first. But then it rained when we were practicing magic, and we ended up taking a bath at his house. He forced me to undress and pulled my panties down. As Ariel tells her, what a lovely story. And I'm just sitting here like, oh shit, that did happen, didn't it? That very questionable scene did happen. Oh boy, so romantic, guys. So, with all this information out the way, it's time to go over a strategy. As Ariel says, first though, let me confirm one thing. Sylphie, you said the other day that you want to be with Rudeus. But what precisely sort of relationship do you want to have with him? And Sylphie's answer is wild. You can tell she's thought of this answer a lot. As she says, we'll share a bed. Oh, and Rudy can be crude sometimes, so he might ask, how many kids do you want? And then I'll be crude too and say, oh, Rudy, how many do you want to put in me? He'll chuckle and say, how about lots? And start undressing me. Then I'll chuckle too and say, lots it is then. And as we see Sylphie lovingly hugging this decoration, Ariel tells her, Sylphie, that all depends on your efforts. We see Sylphie got a little too excited there, guys. As Ariel tells her, failures of nerve will not be tolerated. If you lose heart at the crucial moment and can't bring yourself to tell him, then by my authority as the second princess of Asura, I shall forbid you any further contact with Rudeus Greyrat. Take this seriously. So now the ball is truly in Sylphie's court, and it's all on her. And with all that out the way, it's time to go over their secret get Rudy to fall in love plan. And as we transition to our next scene, it's time to put that plan in motion, baby. As we see Sylphie approach Rudeus and say, hey, I need to talk, but it's kind of a sensitive matter, so can we do it over there alone? And it's here once they're alone, Sylphie says, you know, I'd like to ask you for a big favor. As Rudy says, all right, I'll help you with the force of a red dragon. As she says, I haven't even told you what it is yet. And he tells her, but for you, Fitz, I would even shoot down a flying fortress. And after that casual little riz drop, Sylphie tells him, you know, Princess Ariel got frustrated because another noble bragged about their bodyguard. This other noble said with just a party of 4, their guard could fetch a flower that only grows deep in the forest of Hull. Can you believe the nerve of that? As Rudy's like, you must mean the freeze fringe which only blooms in winter. As she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Anyway, after that, Princess Ariel had gone too far to back down. She said, oh, Fitz could do that with an even smaller group. As Rudy's like, I see the problem. All right, I'll ask some adventurers I know to cut you a deal on that flower. And she's like, wait, whoa, Rudy, no, that wouldn't be right. I gotta show what I'm capable of, hint, hint. As Rudy's like, oh, I'll just round out Stepid's leader party and they'll do it. As she's like, no, Rudy, seriously, no. As he adds, don't worry, they'll just coincidentally enter the forest when we do. Ariel won't lose face. As Sylphie's like, no, you fucking idiot. I mean, couldn't you and me pull this off easily, even without them? Hint, hint. As Rudy's like, I guess that's true. I'll humbly accept the job then. And Sylphie's gotta be thinking to herself, like, this fucking guy. This guy right here, man. And it's time to transition to our flower hunting. As Sylphie tells him, sorry, I kind of basically made you do all the prep work. As Rudy adds, don't be. It's only natural if I'm your guard. But it's here Sylphie says, should I, pay you for your services then? As Rudy's like, nah, I'm doing this as a favor. Don't worry about it. As Sylphie says, please, I can at least pay you for your troubles. in more ways than one. As Rudy tells her, I don't come cheap, you know. As she literally imagines buying Rudy with money, if y'all know what that means. Hey, Sylphie's a woman on a mission, guys. That's all I'm gonna say. And it's here after they've been walking for a bit. Sylphie suddenly brings up, you know, that's the staff I fetched for you the other day, right? It still amazes me. It's all made to order with a custom-made magic crystal? I've never seen that outside of the palace. As Rudy says, yeah, a young noblewoman I tutored gave it to me for my 10th birthday. As Sylphie says, would you let me hold it for a bit? I only have a beginner's wand, so I've really longed to try it out. As Rudy says, sure, feel free, why not? As Rudy's like, what do you think of the heft? And Sylphie's like, wow, it's so thick. Was it made to be held in both hands? Look at the girth on it. It's gigantic. Yes, I know about the joke that's supposed to be here, guys. I was told about this. The joke. It's just so big, guys. She can't handle it. I do know of the joke from the light novels. Just wanted to let you know. As Sylphie says, okay, all according to plan so far, it's working. As we see Sylphie suddenly gets a storm to start up right here all of a sudden. As Rudy says, Fitz, it looks like it's gonna rain. Oh, but I'll have the sky clear in no time. Don't worry about it. As Sylphie says, God damn this idiot. As she says, okay, it's just like Rudy taught me. I'll gather moisture in the clouds, cool it, and let it fall. As we see with her interference, Rudy cannot change the weather, and it starts raining. As Rudy says, damn, I'm sorry, Fitz. I must be out of it today. As she says, don't worry about it. It's probably because I'm holding your staff. As Sylphie thinks, yo, I'm glad I grabbed Rudy's staff, because that shit really just helped me right there. And it's here as it naturally starts raining. We see the two of them go into this convenient cave that just happens to be here to shield themselves from the rain. And as we transition into our next scene, I kind of love how Rudy is smart yet stupid at the same time. As they get into the cave and he says, you know, Fitz seemed off when she hired me. And that's not the only weird thing. I feel like the clouds moved too fast when the rain came in. Someone might have cast a spell on them. I wonder if Fitz has picked up on that. Look how tense and nervous she looks right now. She probably has. Oh, Rudy, you sweet summer child of an idiot. Because it's here as we transition to our next scene, and we see Rudeus is drying his clothes here. He thinks to himself, alright, but what do I do about my underwear? I can't exactly take them off in front of Fitz. Unless. But as he looks over, he sees that she has not taken her wet clothes off yet, and that she's freezing here. As our boy Rudy decides to be a man here and say, Fitz, a girl I once knew told me that showing bare skin is taboo among elves. I'll turn around and close my eyes, so please use magic to dry your clothes while I do. But as he turns back around, he sees she hasn't moved at all, because now is the moment of truth. As Rudy's like, do you want me to make you a private room? Or I could leave the cave, how's that? But it's here Sylphie grabs his hand, and we get a very long pause. As Rudy says, you'll catch a chill, you know. She says, yeah, you're right. Rudy says, losing too much body heat can be fatal. She tells him, yeah, I'll die. Unless you do something. I can't get my clothes off. Undress me. And after another long pause, Rudy says, if you can't do it, I guess I'll have to. As Rudy says, you know I figured out that you're a woman, right? As she says, I know, but I might die unless you remove my clothes. So do it. And it's here we get a very intimate moment. Because as he starts undressing her here, he's starting to realize, as he says, haven't I seen these blushing ears before? Something like this happened a long time ago. When I was 5 or 6, maybe? I'm sure of it. And it's here as she gets as undressed as we can show. She tells Rudy, there's still one thing left to take off. As Rudy knows exactly what she means. And as he reaches for her glasses and pulls them off, you can tell he recognizes her instantly. You can see it. As he says, "Fitz," she says, "Yes, Rudy? Is your real name Sylphys?" As she breaks down into tears and says, "Yes," while she embraces him. As she says, "I finally was able to say it." As Rudy says, "Just like back then, she's still a crybaby." As she tells him, "I worked really hard all this time I was in Buena. I've waited so long." As she says, "For such a long time, I've loved you, Rudy. And now I love you even more. And I want to stay with you forever." And on that very touching note, our episode ends. Just look at the smile on my face, guys. Like, how can you walk away from this episode and not just have the biggest smile on your face ever? Like, this episode was beautiful, man. I think they built this up so well over the course of the season. I do think it took a while for us to get here, but the payoff is so good. To see this scene, to see all the emotions in this episode coming together and converging in this one scene was beautiful, man. Man, I really like Sylphys. That's my big takeaway from this whole season, is that Sylphys has... See, I don't know if I want to say she's my favorite now. That's really tough, but I really like Sylphys, man. And this episode was just great. Just so good, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode down in the comments, because it finally happened. And I am so here for it. Unfortunately, now I know that some bullshit's gonna happen. I know how this show works, man. Super touching, happy scene always gets followed by tragedy. So, we'll see what happens soon. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day, and I will see you guys in our next reaction. Deuces.